And welcome back. Welcome back to the second edition of Striker's Animes Games and Collections. I'm your host. You have to excuse me. It's early in the morning. I'm your host, Strykerprime, aka Curtis Lawson. And we're just going to go back into the nitty gritty of the last segment, which I had posted about a couple of days ago in regards to uh, gaming and the female perspective of gaming. Now, last week, roughly around last week, I had talked about how there was a podcast on the Joe Budden network where these three women were talking about um, how they consider that people who are gamers that are adults now, specifically men, are considered as losers and things of that nature. Well, I want to hurry up and continue talking about that subject because it really kind of did take me and put me on a big turn off with the way that they um, displayed their distaste, especially not only in their mannerisms and their speech, but also in their facial expressions. It kind of saddened me at the way that they thought because then I have to look at the fact that okay, I wonder if these women are mothers. No offense, I'm just going out there with it. If they and if by any chance that this flies into their direction, that this podcast flies into their direction, and I hope it does, and they do get offended, I want them to get at me on here, get at me on Twitch, make your comments, and I'll be more than happy to answer everything that you have to say. But to delve back into those statements, it was really you have a very one-dimensional side of thinking, ladies. No offense, I'm just going to be real with you. You have a very bad one-dimensional side of thinking. Let's just be honest. Let's really be honest. Your thinking was so one-dimensional, it felt like I was looking at a piece of paper. Try, not trying to be disrespectful, but in a sense, that's exactly what it felt like. Oh, yeah. Back to the subject in hand. One of them had had distinctly stated that one out of the top 10 best dicks she's ever had was not a gamer, and I think that constitutes as a big falsehood because you'd rather have a dude that's in the streets all the time, and you would think that he's not just fucking you. Let's be real honest. He's not just screwing you, but he's also screwing the next three or four girls along the way. Let's just be honest. That's how it is sometimes. Y'all get to that mindset, thinking, "Oh yeah, a guy he's locked down, he's mine and only mine," and yet like this, you don't realize that you ain't the only one. Let's be real honest about that. That's how it ends up becoming. It's crazy, but it's the truth. And then you're saying that these top 10 guys aren't gamers. What do you know about their personal life? Are you with them 24/7? Let's just be real with it. Have you been in their lives 24/7, 365 to see what they're actually doing in their own home? If they even let you stay in the apartment long enough. Let's get let's really get to the nitty gritty on that one. I know it's gonna sound kind of misogynist, sexist, but it's not. It's actually common sense thinking. And some people are gonna get offended by it, but yet like this is me. And I'm being honest. I'm a grown man. I'm a grown ass man, 42 years old. I'm a father of one. I'm a husband, and yet I actually have more sense to make of this whole thing. I mean, make it make sense, ladies. But I can make it make sense on my own. I say from my own perspective. Now, you're griping. Now, the lady that was in the middle was actually discussing saying, how is it that a grown man is sitting here talking about he's never been committed into anything in his entire into their entire committed to anything in their entire lives than it is to go after the PlayStation 5. Sweetie, this is a business. This is basically a situation where where we're dealing with a business where there's supply and demand. This thing, there was a limited amount of supply, and there's a higher demand than what has been out there. Excuse me, just a little bit tired here, but I'm gonna just continue with my point. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not a big PlayStation fan. I used to have PlayStation when it first came out. I say, well, not when it first came out. I didn't get a PlayStation. I didn't get my first PlayStation until I was about 19, 18. That's how I was 18. That's like I got my first PlayStation at 18. Bought myself a PlayStation, had myself some games, and enjoyed myself at that. I played with my friends on campus and by myself, and enjoyed myself. Years later in the line, I got the PS2. Then I screwed over to Xbox, and ever since then, I liked Xbox. I jumped back to the PS3 and I tried the PS4. I'm not gonna lie, they were pretty decent systems, but it just didn't appeal to me because the Xbox appealed to me more as an entertainment setup. When the 360 came out, come on, you could stream watching movies with your friends. You could stream YouTube, Netflix, and all the other stuff while you were actually watching this. Yeah, you can still do it on PlayStation, but yet while you could do a watch party with your friends off the console directly. That was hot. That was crazy. And then on top of that, you still had the subscription things. You could still use your subscription downloads and transfer them over to do that as well. That was crazy. That was beautiful. And I'm still an Xbox fan. I got an Xbox One X. I had the Xbox One and moved over to the One X. I want to get the Series X. Why? Because of this. I want to see the system's evolution at full capacity. And so far, the One X has actually proved this point. The Series X is starting to show me show me. I'm waiting to work on getting my hands on the Series X so I can really test it out and give it a really good personal review for my own stance. And I think it's going to be a great. I think I'm going to have a great time with it and show that it's a damn good system. If not, I'll get the Series S and still run it the same way. Um, but again, I digress from that point. You talk about a person that's not committed to anything more than it came to a game system. When there are people who are actually committed to relationships, their jobs, and so forth, their careers and whatnot, that's dedication and that's love. Believe you me, I was a tech head for a long time, and I put my put my commitment to my job and my family. At the same time, I was actually neglected. I was actually losing out on both ends, and and the worst part about that was I was losing out on myself in the end. So to steer off your point, and come back to, I guess you could say, bust down that argument and make your feelings a little hurt, your ego feel a little small about that. Is that for you to sit there and say that about somebody about a man's commitments issues is probably a reason why. What is it with the men in your life? What is it about the men that you're attracted to that are not so committed? That it may not be the men. It may be you. Let's be real. It may be you. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And it's kind of funny. No, and I'm not trying to be really funny. I'm not trying to be colorist or none of that nonsense. But it's so funny how these two light skinned women had the nerve to talk so much negativity about brothers in gaming or about men in gaming in general. And yet the dark skinned chocolate sister who was so sweet and so fine, and yet was great in our defense, didn't bash us. And I'm not talking down to you women. I'm just saying it's sad that these two light skinned black women had the nerve to bash men. And I know they probably were specifically trying to bash black men in regards to gamers. And then this dark skinned sister gave us the greatest defense. And I loved her defense for that. Come on, she was playing games while she still had her little girl and was actually looking out for her little girl and was and had bonding time with her man. And I think that's the greatest thing to have. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You do that, you bond with your man, you bond with your kid. As that evolves, you know what that is? That creates that creates a great family in the end. And end of discussion. And then the same one in the middle had the nerve to sit there and talk about that men are trash on NBA and 2K, NFL, Madden NFL, and NBA 2K. How do you know that people are trash on that game system? I mean, on those two games, do you act? Are you hearing it? Or are you? Is this hearsay that you're hearing about people being trash in those games, or are you actually getting up and trying and giving it a shot to try to play these games with someone? Maybe a guy, maybe your little brother, maybe a little cousin, somebody who actually plays the games. Ask us. I'm asking these questions to you because it sounds like you are very bitter with someone who was a gamer who really didn't have time for you, and that goes to that woman in the middle and that woman that was on the left hand side, because it seemed like y'all were very bitter about the whole situation altogether. When it came to conversation, you had nerve to talk trash about them, talk about these were these were wannabe athletes and whatnot. Then what were you? What were you doing during your high school years? Since you got nerve to talk about somebody being a wannabe athlete, I'll give you a prime example. I was never an athlete. I don't like basketball. I don't like playing basketball, and I don't like playing football. So I used to like playing football when I was in high school, but I was never on a team. I wanted to actually garner to get my high school to have a football team, but we couldn't do it. We didn't have the funds for it, so we never did it. We had our own little I said our own little hood football games during the end of the year, or whatever the case may be. At that point in time, that's the only way I was able to get a chance to get to some football. Other than that, I never got the experience. And when it came to playing video game football, the best game I ever played was Tecmo Bowl. Well, that and NFL Blitz. Other than that, I was never a Madden fan. Madden is beyond over my. I'm a te- I'm a person with a technical head that loves that loves circuits and computers and this and that. I'm a nerd. I'm technically a nerd, but I don't give. And you want to know something? I don't give a damn. I'm proud of it. And yet, I was never really that much of a big sports fan. But I'm cool with that. But yet, you had nerve to actually talk about those who are saying who wanted to be athletes, and yet they couldn't get. They couldn't get to that. But yet, like this, those who didn't get to become athletes actually learned the probabilities of how that actually works out. And they learned from that and they got smart with that. So the great question would actually be to turn the tables on you is what were you doing during your high school years, talking about they should look back at their old high school tapes. That's cold. That's kind of disrespectful because of this. Basically, they may have been an athlete. Basically, people who were like that were athletes at a time and may have injured themselves, they can't be athletes anymore. But yet, I just think, and yet there's some parents who actually live vicariously through their kids as athletes or whatever the case may be, and then there's the strict ones that are a little bit crazy about it, which that's a whole other subject all on its own. But to dog those or say who were former athletes, whatever the case may be, or athletes that wanted, or people that wanted to try out for sports, is kind of uh, a big 180 dump truck on people altogether, whether they were those who are in the past and those who are in the present. And then if you're doing that to them, then that means you're definitely trying to hand down a dumpster truck on people who are actually computer nerds, whatever the case would be, which I am. And personally, I took that to offense, and I felt like that. I felt that was a very disrespectful way of actually thinking, because then you don't know what a person's life was like during high school and what they are now. Just because you sitting there looking like I'm saying like you got glowed up doesn't mean that 10, 15, 20 years in the line, it's going to backfire on you and your beauty's going to fade. Hate to say it like that, but it is what it is. So you should have been mindful of what you said. But listen, basically, all I want to do is to say this, that you shouldn't dog a person about what they like as far as gaming is concerned. If you're a gamer, that's cool. If you're not a gamer, that's cool too. Who cares? Like this, it's whatever your preference is. But yet, for a person who's not a gamer, should never dog a person who is, and who and actually likes and actually likes that kind of stuff. That's like a person who dogs out a person who's a geek, who's a cosplayer, who's this, who's an anime fan, and all other stuff. And I'm all those things, and all those things and a little bit more. But you want to know something? I love that culture. And it actually keeps me at peace. Right now, basically, I'm just gonna leave with that, and I'm gonna end off this podcast. Say, keep striving, keep striking, and be good to one another out there, everybody. Have a great one, man. And also, yo, enjoy what you love. If it makes you happy, that's all that matters. Peace.